All right. So we thought day 2, we would just go out with a bang, right? Everybody loves RDCs. Everybody loves RDAs, right? Right? Thank you, Stacy. So we are not going to get into TIF. I just need to clarify that right now. That is a whole other animal, and that is not what this presentation is about today. So how many of you guys in your last audit RDA came up, maybe even for the first time? Yeah, quite a few of you. So what was happening is we were finding that there were some RDAs out there that we didn't know about, right? And so we were finding them either coming in and doing the audit, because how many of you are the fiscal officer for the RDA? Right? So we would find them maybe by coming in and looking at the county's records. So then questions came up, sometimes people will say RDC, some people will say RDA. And so if you come and ask us a question, we're going to ask you a lot of questions to make sure that we're giving you the right guidance depending on which one we're actually talking about. And so it's been a while since we've done anything on this. And so we want to talk about what they are, how they're created, how they're different, and then from a reporting standpoint, what we would expect to see during the audits, okay? So if you have questions, please ask. It's not the funnest of presentations. Again, my fun presentations are Friday, so please be here for Fridays. Okay, so we're going to start with an RDC because that's one that we've probably done the most with up until recently. We're mostly talking to you guys about RDCs. And so, click there. So this right here is just the statute that goes over what the RDC is, its creation, powers, duties. So we're going to kind of break that down a little bit. And we're going to start with how it's created. All right, so 36.714.3 allows for the creation of an RDC, or redevelopment commission. The statute allows for there to be 5-member boards. You can have 7-member boards if an ordinance is passed through the legislative body. It is subject to the State Board of Accounts audits, right? They are also covered by the Public Meetings Law and the Public Records Law, okay? So same things that apply to the county would apply to them. Bless you. I don't know, so I thought somebody said it was me. Anyway, so the county executive, again, appoints these board members. The RDC is created. And so as we kind of move through statute, can I just point at you and say, did it change versus? Okay. All right, as we go through that statute a little bit further, we look into and we find out what the duties of the commission are, right? And so they do things like investigate, study, survey areas in need of redevelopment. They investigate, study, and determine what causes are and try to combat those. They promote the use of land in the manner that best serves the interests of the citizens. They cooperate with different departments and different agencies. They also do make findings and reports on activities, and then they leave those reports open for inspection of the public. They select and acquire areas needing redevelopment to be redeveloped. They also can replan and dispose of areas needing redevelopment, and again, in a manner that serves the social and economic interests of the citizens. And so that part, it seems to kind of run through, right? It's in the best interest of your citizens for what they're doing as they're going through that redevelopment, which is a lot, right? They're going through, they've got those areas, they're looking to see what needs to be redevelopment, they're coming up with a plan. The part that starts to go is, how do we account for redevelopment? Commission funds. I'm going to look back anyway. I tried. Okay. So as we go through the statute, there's a couple of them here, but If you read in 36.7.14a, here's what it actually says. It says, the fiscal officer of the unit establishing the Redevelopment Commission is the treasurer of the Redevelopment Commission. So who's the fiscal officer of the county? I'm sorry, what? I know it's early, but like I'm up here. So like the auditor. So that gets kind of confusing, right? So it says you're the auditor. As the auditor, you are the treasurer of the Redevelopment Commission. And so it gives some responsibilities. Well, our audit position on this is it would be treated like any other fund, okay? So the auditor would include those funds on their funds ledger, but the treasurer still does the cash, right? They do the bank accounts, they are reconciling it, just like you would with any other fund, okay? All right, so as it goes through, it does talk about the funds must be held separately when they're established, right? So just like all your other funds, right? We're not commingling it with anything else. We know what those funds are. They're in a specific fund. They're held separate. They also have to be accessible to the commission at all times, okay? And they cannot have a balance less than zero. But no fund can have a balance less than zero, but they specifically tell you here, right? We can't have less than zero. Okay. So let's kind of talk about the disbursement part. All right, so disbursements are laid out in two different sections. They're laid out in 36.7.14.8 and then 36.7.14.29, so you kind of have to read them together. So as your disbursements are going to go, they do follow your normal claims process, right? So an invoice is submitted. You as the auditor are going to review those claims. You're going to certify those claims. And then on the approval of the commission, you'll pay those claims, okay? So the commission is appointed to approve those claims. They're appointed to do those dollars. The vouchers do need to be signed by either the president or vice president and the secretary or the executive secretary, okay, for approval. There's also so just as commissioners can pass an ordinance to allow you guys to pay like utilities and things like that ahead of board approval, Redevelopment Commission can do the same thing on certain payments, okay? So again, we would just be looking for something, some sort of, it says rule or resolution. So we want to see something in writing that's where the Redevelopment Commission has approved for that payment beforehand, okay? But it is an allowable thing. This is the easy one, isn't it? Everybody's like, yeah, we do this already. All right, so during the audit for the county, the Redevelopment Commission is a department of the county, right? It is considered that way because the commissioners appoint, well, first of all, the county created it, right, to do this. They've also appointed their commissioner, the commission's commissioners, right, the board on it. All the funds are now running through the county ledger, and it's up to the auditor to maintain those. So you're also reporting them on your AFR. So when we come in to do the audit, I don't know how all of your counties do it. Is the auditor maintaining all the invoices, or does the redevelopment maintain some of those as like a copy? Sometimes in the past when I went in to do like a commission, I will go see them and they hold like some reports and some other things. Obviously the auditor's office is the official record, but make sure that whatever they have, they're maintaining for audit, so that if you don't have everything, we are going to ask them for it. That would include any minutes to meetings that they're having, right? So if they're approving things through their minutes, we're going to need those for audit purposes as well as we audit those claims. But all revenue or anything else will be coming in through the county. Anybody not doing it this way? This isn't really the thing, is it? You guys have any questions on RDCs? None? Wow. Why'd we do this first thing in the morning? All right. Oh. Is it not working? It's like Lori's got one up here. I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know who is speaking.
All the way back there.
All the. Say it one more time.
Hello?
Oh, there we go.
That's too loud.
So you said the claim should be signed by the president or vice president and the secretary?
Yes, statute says and the secretary or executive secretary. So it's like the president or the vice president on one side and then the secretary or the executive secretary.
Because we only get the president to sign, so we should have the secretary to sign too.
That's what statute says.
Okay, thank you.
I think we had one more.
Robin.
Okay, thought we did.
Be nice to me, Robin.
This is just a suggestion, and you guys may do this, I don't know, but for us in Hamilton County, it would be nice if some of this RDC and RDA would be shared at a commissioners conference with their attorneys.
I would love that, but we do not do a state called meeting for commissioners.
Dang.
I'm sorry, but I see your point. And if I can help you at any point, I would do that. All right. Any other questions on that? We're going to move to the less fun one, RDAs. So RDAs in statute are 36.714.5. All right. So in order to create an RDA, the county must first have a commission, okay? So that is important so that you can see both of them, and they're both separate. They are not one entity, they are separate. They are created by the county legislative body. And again, as statute will say in here, they are created as a separate body, corporate and public. Politic. I can't go there. It's fine. So by statute, they are created separate from you. They are created by an ordinance of the legislative body. They are subject to all the same laws, rules, and ordinances that apply to all other authorities, which includes subject to a State Board of Accounts audit, and then they are also covered under the Public Meetings and Public Records Law. Their ordinance is also creates their board, which is a 3-member board that the commissioners would then appoint. Okay. The purpose of the authority is to finance, construct, and lease local improvements to the commission. It kind of helps relieve like covenants of the commission that they kind of consider maybe burdensome. They kind of function similar to like a building corp, to a redevelopment commission. Basically, they're a legal vehicle, right, to kind of get around that 2% debt limit. So because they're a separate unit, that debt doesn't go against the debt limits of the county when the authority has been created. Don't you love legal things? So I kind of put an example up here. So the Redevelopment Commission could transfer property to an RDA, typically with the goal of completing a particular project, let's say like a new building or, rehabbing the facade of something. The RDA would then issue the bond to pay for that project using the property as security. Then the RDA then leases that property back to the Redevelopment Commission, and the lease payments from the Redevelopment Commission to the RDA pay for the debt service of the bonds. Any questions on that? Good. Their duties are a little bit more lengthy than your Redevelopment Commission. They are outlined in 36.714.512. right? So they can finance, improve, construct, reconstruct, renovate, purchase, lease, acquire, or equip local public improvements. They can lease those public improvements to the commission. They can sue or be sued. They can condemn, appropriate, lease, rent, purchase, and hold any real or personal property needed that's considered useful in the connection of that improvement. They can acquire real and personal property by gift, device, bequest, or hold use or dispose of the property for purposes that are authorized in this chapter. They can actually enter onto lands to do surveying and examining them to determine the location of improvements. They can design, order, contract for, they can construct, reconstruct, and renovate any local improvements. They can employ managers, superintendents, architects, engineers, attorneys, auditors, clerks, construction managers, and other employees. They can make and enter into all contracts and agreements as necessary. And then they can take any other action necessary to complete the authority's purpose. It's a lot, right? All right. Okay. Bless you. I feel like everybody's breathing the same thing. It's going to take over the room. It's October, right? Okay. The authority board goes into a little bit more detail into 36.7.14.5.9. It talks about what the board is supposed to do every year. So they have to hold an organizational meeting like your other boards, right? They're going to select their president, their vice president, secretary, treasurer, those things. They can elect to have an assistant secretary treasurer. And one of the other things that they have to do, or the secretary treasurer would have to do, is to report annually to the board. I almost said commission. See, I almost did. The authority also, no later than April 15th of every year, has to submit a report setting out the activities of the preceding calendar year. They have to do this to the executive and fiscal body. So they need to present it both to the commissioners and to the council. They need to send it to the Department of Local Government Finance. And it has to include several things. It has to include what revenues they've brought in, what expenses they've paid, their fund balances, okay? So kind of like similar to like your AFR report, they should see those. A ledger could work possibly. They have to let everybody know the amount and the maturity date for all outstanding obligations. They have to let them know how much they paid on all outstanding obligations. And they have to give a list of all parcels that are included in each tax increment financing district allocation area that includes the base assessed value and the incremental assessed value. Do we know if that's happening? I got some shaking yes. I got some saying no. Okay. I did the same thing Janie did yesterday. No? Right? Huh? Yeah, okay. All right. You guys are going to have to like talk here in a few, so be prepared. Okay, so for RDA funds, how should these be accounted for? So first of all, we're going to look for who the fiscal officer, there's got to be a fiscal officer that's appointed that's taking care of the records, okay? The funds have to be maintained in a ledger. They should be using prescribed forms. So they should be using the regular claims, any receipts that they would have, the ledgers, those kinds of things. All accounting and uniform compliance guidelines would apply. They need to be performing reconcilements. They also need to have what Lori loves to talk about, which is internal controls in place. You need to make sure there's also some legal considerations that they have to do. They have to follow like the Public Works project procurement rules, investing in public funds, and then there is, if once the authority has achieved its purpose, 36, 714, 512 will walk them through how to dissolve that RDA. Okay. Do that every time. No? Did I? Yeah. Okay. So audit expectations, when we come in to do the audit for the RDA, again, it is a separate entity from the county. Again, we're looking for that supporting ledger. They should be reporting their own separate AFR. Okay, so their annual financial report. They need to be maintaining all their minutes and all claims and supporting documentation. Heard somebody say something. Okay, before I go into what is the 2023 audit discoveries, how many in here are reporting RDA funds on their AFR for the county? How many are doing both? Only one's doing both? Oh, two. Sorry. I'm sorry. I appreciate you letting me. Okay. So, as I said in the beginning of this, we obviously knew RDAs were out there, right? But we noticed as we were going in that there were these funds on the auditor's ledger, and there's a lot of them, a lot of counties who have it on the auditor's ledger, and we started pulling those apart and thinking, okay, we've kind of let that kind of slip through the cracks a little bit, probably since Gateway in and of itself came up, right? Because when we created Gateway, we had to go in and create a unit. So every county has its own unit. That's how you can go in and enter your AFR information. But if we don't know you exist, we can't create a unit in Gateway. So there's no avenue for them to report, which is probably why, as the counties, a lot of you were reporting it on your AFR because you're holding the money. You know you have to report it. You had no other avenue to report it. And so as we were kind of fleshing this out and we were getting into our audits, we were trying to figure out, okay, what is this going to look like? And so, oh, no, go back. All right. So during this, we thought, okay, last year we decided we are really going to ask. We're going to look through your records. We're going to pull and see if there's an RDA associated with your county. So we were trying to figure out how they were situated, how they were working, and what was what. So we were trying to identify. That was like the whole goal of last year, was to identify where they are. We kind of instituted, like, again, these multiple methods to ensure that we had got them all. Again, some had already been identified. We have some that have been identified. They're in Gateway, they're reporting, they are, already done. We've had some, again, that were on, that were indicating it on their AFR, and those we considered potential, right? That they were potential RDAs until we got in there and verified that. And there were some that weren't included on the AFR, but then we would find mention of an RDA someplace, and we'd have to inquire and grab everything to just determine whether or not it was actually an RDA, okay? Anybody have any of that, where we came in and you didn't know you had one, and then all of a sudden you had one? So we came across really two scenarios. So there were RDAs that had a separate fiscal officer from the county. Those records were being exclusively maintained by the RDA. These are the ones that we were talking about, how they already were set up in Gateway, they were already reporting properly, they were already on an audit cycle, like they were already up and running. We didn't have to do a whole lot with those, right? Because they're already there. But the other one that we found was the RDAs that are maintained on the records of the county. And this typically, again, is when, or it included all their financials and bank accounts, but this is when the auditor was appointed the fiscal officer of the RDA. And so you include those onto your ledger, which again, makes sense, right? It has to be maintained separately in a separate fund. You already have a ledger. So we're going to go ahead and create just a fund or 2 or 3 or however many funds you need for that. So we were trying to determine last year how these were going to be audited as we were kind of moving forward. And so with the first one, we kind of already, that was the easiest, right? It matched all the accounting guidance. Again, AFR was already entered. It's already being audited separately from the county. We kind of moved on. Again, there wasn't a whole lot of work that we had to do with those. In scenario 2, we had to do a little bit more work. So we would pull, if you have a county where you are doing 2, one for the RDA and one for the county, we pulled both that financial information and we combined and then eliminated one. So we weren't double reporting, right? And then we audited it along with the county in and of itself. If there wasn't anything, then we would add it. And if it was just on the counties, we would just run it that way. I do believe that if you had multiple RDA funds, they were combining those into one on the financials just to show redevelopment authority. If they were not into Gateway, they should have asked them to reach out, or they were reaching out. Somebody may have reached out to you to set up a unit inside Gateway to start reporting those AFRs. Has anybody had to do that? Did they reach out? Do you know if they set one up? So you're getting audited for 23 right now.
Said you need to throw in 21 and 22. So
And that was a stopgap so that we could catch up from things that we hadn't audited.
But they didn't give me any guidance on how to put anything in, so I did my best.
So when you entered your 23, did you do it the same way you did 22?
I didn't. Last year when I was audited, that's when they told me 21, 22. There was nothing in there.
Okay.
So I just went in and put my 23 when I finished this year.
Okay.
So we're going to find out.
So we're working on it. It's going to be a slow process to catch them all and get them all input into the input into Gateway. All right, and able to look at those. All right. So the whole thing is, again, we're trying to get them set up properly. So they're a separate unit. We want to get them put into Gateway, so that if you are the fiscal officer, you would be submitting an AFR for the RDA and you just wouldn't include it on your county. Okay, that's the goal at this point. During the audits, they're going to be audited alongside the county. It's the only way it makes sense, right? The county's the one that created it. It's a vehicle for the county. It was only set up as a separate unit to get you around the debt limit, okay? So it is going to be audited alongside the county. Question that I have, and I don't have an answer for, is how that's going to be reported. I don't know if we're going to do a separate report for the RDA versus the county, or if we're going to somehow combine it, do a note disclosure. I'm not sure on the specifics on that. I don't think we've kind of thought that far ahead for next year, next audit cycle yet. But that won't be something that'll affect you, right? Because you're just maintaining the records. So it's still on your records. You're going to run it like you do all your other funds, okay? That's not going to change. You're the fiscal officer. The only time that would ever change is if they somehow went away from you to an outside. Okay, then we might have to talk about how that transition moves. But you would maintain everything the same way. You'd have all the claims, those kinds of things, because they're being approved. Again, it's an RDA. Those would still have like a normal claims process, but the RDA would prove those claims to be paid. Okay? Okay. How much time do I have? I have a lot. Okay. If you already reported it on the county, again, leave it there. We can adjust it. If in January, February, you forget this conversation and you go ahead and you report it in both places when they come in during audit, you can review that before you sign your Form 13. Okay. Review that. If you want to change that and say, oh, I forgot I needed to pull that out, go ahead and mention it then. Okay. There's always a way to get it corrected at that point. They should be more in conversation with you of what that's going to look like as we move forward. My question that I wanted to kind of start with is during the audit, for those who, let's say, maybe didn't know that they had an RDA. Did we have any in here that didn't know and then it got found out? I heard somebody say that would be me. All the way back there. Okay. So I want you to kind of talk to us about what happened during that. How you found out, how they found out, and what you had to do. I know I'm putting you on the spot. Good morning.
Oh, sorry. So during our 2023 audit, our field examiners informed me of the RDA, and I kept thinking the redevelopment commission, and sent them all the information for our redevelopment commission. And they're like, no, this is not it. And so we do have an RDA. So I looked on our board appointments that we appoint every year. And the RDA is required to have their meeting and do all this. And they hadn't been having meetings, and nothing had been submitted to me. So they ended up having an exit interview with the State Board of Accounts and also myself, where we had to have the plan where they're meeting and everything had to be turned in.
Right.
I basically went over what we were supposed to be doing now. So this
So
year.
are they doing it now?
Yes.
And that's the whole point.
Yes.
You've established,
Yes.
because sometimes they're being established for that, but then we're not following through on the rest of it.
Yes. And they hadn't met since 2021.
Okay.
So
That's not
yeah.
awful. It's
Not
the
too
worst
bad,
I've
but-
heard. Okay. Anybody else have one? Yeah.
We just have a question.
So, I'm so sorry. Is this similar to like a building corp?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. They kind of act like a building corp to a redevelopment commission. Okay. So we've got at least one where you found it. You guys, they put you through the process to start getting everything set up for them, hopefully even in the gateway. Okay. Wait, was it in gateway before? No. So you had to set that up. Okay. All right. So then we worked on that. So what about the ones who, let's see, somebody who reported it both places? You're the fiscal officer, you reported it on gateway, and you reported it in the county. I'm looking at you because I know you didn't, though, did you? So you did 2 AFRs. Okay. So. Okay. So talk about
So-
how you reported it before.
I used to just report it in the county.
Okay.
And then last year when I was audited, that's when they were like, no, you have to do this separate. And then they gave me the option for 21 and 22, but I couldn't get in there to do anything. So I moved everything to 23, but I still reported it in both
Okay.
because there just wasn't a lot of
So
guidance and help.
when you first came in, or when they first came in and you were only in the county, how did they set you up in Gateway?
They didn't.
So how
They
did you
just gave
report it
it-
twice?
Last year I did because I wasn't for sure what I was doing. So in 23, and that's what I'm working right now with
But
my
when you say you
auditor.
reported, you didn't report it in Gateway.
No, in 23 I reported in
So, okay,
both.
that's what I want to know. Like, how did you? So, okay, sorry. I think
I had to set everything up.
So
but
you
they went back
contacted and got a sign in for the RDA and all of that too.
They kind of done it with my audit last year. I don't know. It's a mess. I can tell you it's a mess.
Okay.
But we're going to figure
But
it out
it was set
this
up
year.
for you then.
Yes.
Okay. That's what I was I didn't know if they were having you reach out and do it to our Gateway team or if the field examiners themselves were reaching out and setting it up.
The field examiners opened it up for 21 and 22, but there's nothing in there.
Okay.
So we had to do everything for 23.
And so you just move forward to 23. Okay.
Yes.
Is there anybody who reports it on the county only and hasn't set up or doesn't know of them having a Gateway account for the RDA?
So we've always treated it as a supplemental, and then our person that comes in to do our ACFR, because we do the next big thing, but it's always been reported through the county stuff. We've never.
You're a different kind of scenario because
I
you're
know.
a GAP, and that's a little different. I just mean for reporting on the AFR wise.
Okay.
Really, at this point. So yes, you are right. You are reporting it correctly.
Oh,
you were
thanks.
reporting it correctly way back when I did your audit. So I
Thank
remember
you.
that.
Ricky, could you define RDA again as to why it's different?
Okay. So the RDA is a redevelopment authority. Okay. It is created once you have a commission. Its really sole purpose is to get around, it's like a legal vehicle to get around the county's debt limit. Okay. So it's like I was telling Deb, it is like a holding corp. I don't know who asked, so I'm like looking at the whole crowd. Oh, did you ask? Good morning. That's where I'm at. There's still no coffee. Makes me sad.
Coffee now.
What?
There's coffee now. I'll be
Now
right.
you can't go because I need questions from the audience. You're gonna have to wait. I'll get
Fine.
you a coffee at 10.
Okay.
Okay. She's like, I'm out of here. Sorry. It is what it is. Okay. All right. So those who were reporting it all on the county, are we now reporting it in two separate places? Or are we just reporting it? How are we reporting it now? Let's just ask that. You do it in two places. So you're reporting it on the county and the. Well, I need you to tell me what you meant by it. She's coming with a microphone.
I'm
Yep,
gonna let
you have to
her do
explain it.
because of my voice.
Oh.
Thanks. No, we have an AFR, a whole separate unit
Yes.
for the RDA.
Yes.
And then we have the county
Okay.
unit. So,
And so-
they're completely separated.
And so are you reporting it in the RDA one and?
Yeah, we do it all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get it to just be in the RDA.
No, yeah, we don't put the RDA funds in the county funds.
Okay. Okay. You do two separate AFRs, but you only report your RDAs once.
Got it.
All
Yes.
right. We got
Oh, yes.
there. I know it's 9. I will never do one of these at 9:00 again.
Can I ask a different
No,
question?
please ask.
We've touched on the building corporations, okay?
Okay.
And so they are part of the county, right?
Well,
Well,
they're the same thing. It's like its own separate thing, but it's created by the county in order again to get around.
I know, but so we don't report them separately like we do RDAs.
No, they're not. I don't think we have any, do we? Yeah. Do we have any
We don't.
holding corps that we do that we have as like a special district? Right. I know, which is why I'm struggling. Sorry.
Oh. We have two.
So you do have two?
We have two building corporations. We have the jail building corporation,
Okay.
which is almost done because that's about
Right.
paid off. And then we have we have the building corporation that
Right.
buys buildings,
Right.
refurbishes buildings for the county.
So we probably need to talk after this, but we probably need to set them up separately as well, because you wouldn't include their transactions into the counties because you're showing your lease payment, right? That's coming out,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't show like the activity that's going on there. But let's talk and make sure that we're on the same page before.
Okay. Right.
Sorry?
Because, well, yeah, we got
Okay.
cited 1 year for not putting it on the county records, and then we got cited another year for putting it on the county records. So we don't know what to do.
Can't see who she is. Thank you. I have to also let you know that my contacts ripped in half this morning. So I can see you, but I can't really see you. Thank you. Thank you. I needed this. So yeah, can you reach out to me separately and we'll make sure we get you, because I don't, in this situation, we don't want it to be a situation where it's off, it's on, it's off, it's on. Let's talk about it. Let's get it set in stone and let's get it done correctly, because that's not right. Okay. She doesn't want to talk on the microphone.
We wanted it repeated, but I think we figured out the counties is separate. The RDA is not being submitted on the counties. It's a separate entity.
Yes, the RDA is in and of itself a separate entity from the county.
So that's
If it was the same for the county, then you couldn't get around your debt thing, could you? Right? Oh, I thought you were handing the microphone to her. I think you should just hand it to random people and let's see what happens. Oh yeah, who doesn't have one? I know, right? Thank you. You didn't even need this presentation. So kudos to you. It's the best coffee I have had all day. And I actually mean that. Okay, so again, what we can do with that situation. But the whole point is we just want to make sure that these are, first of all, getting audited. So there could be a chance where your field examiners came in, they did everything. You have an RDA, but they didn't ask maybe the right questions or didn't see or didn't know to ask the right questions. So if you know you have an RDA and it hasn't been picked up, you got to let us know. You can even email us and we can get that ball rolling if they've never looked at it, never talked to you about it, any of that. But we need to make sure that they're getting on there and getting reported, okay? Deb, all the way in the back.
coming, Deb.
I just want you to know I'm at 2,900 steps this morning.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. So it is not, if we don't know about it and it needs to get established and they get on it. But ultimately, would that be a finding for the auditors? Even though it's not ours, but it is.
I'm not sure that they were doing findings currently on it. I think the whole point was to find them. So as far as I know for last year, I think that was the whole goal. It was created. We would want you to report it. So if you are the fiscal officer, you do have an obligation to report it. So if it was in the counties and you were at least reporting it there, I don't believe we took audit exception to that, right? Which again is correct because we never really gave you proper guidance on how to do it to begin with. So like I said, that first year was really kind of a let's just find them and make sure they're recorded properly. I'm not sure if anybody actually got written up unless they knew about it and weren't reporting it at all. You know what I'm saying?
Just a management letter comment.
See, I didn't think they were taking it all the way up as far as a level or like a reportable comment. She doesn't have any more questions?
She was stretching.
I know somebody scratched their head over here yesterday
sorry.
and I ran to them and I was like, I'm sorry. It's not your thing. Does anybody else have any other questions? Or a different situation that we didn't talk about? No? Yep.
Hold on. Can you help me understand why my RDA needs to be reported, but my jail bond board does not need to be reported?
Depends on how the jail bond board was probably set up.
Okay.
Probably need way more information.
Okay.
Sorry.
I had a long discussion with my field reps, and they are confident that we have it all created correctly now, but I just can't wrap my mind around why it's basically the same thing, but I'm not reporting on the jail, but I'd have to report the RDA.
Yeah, I'd have to see. Honestly, when you start getting into some of these things, and without reading through it and seeing how yours was actually set up, I don't want to lead you astray.
Okay.
Sorry. But if you want to send it to me, I'll look at it and see if I can help you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you would like
I'm not confident, but again, I have no idea the details.
She's not going to give that. Lori, Ricky, and I would love to read it if you'd love to send it to us.
If you want, and we can maybe talk about it and why. If that would help, we'd be willing to do that. Anybody else? So everybody loves RDAs. We're going to be on the lookout for them. We're going to report them separately, right? Okay. Well, you guys weren't as interactive as I thought you were going to be. That's okay, because again, we're doing the cybersecurity thing, and we can go a lot longer on that. All right, so what time is it? Sorry, my watch didn't work.
It's 9:50.
It's 9:50, so we'll just do this. We'll just take the 10-minute break now.
20-minute.
20-minute break, sorry. 20-minute break. And then come back at 10:10. We'll do reconciling. Does that sound good?
Deal.
All right.